It did not bother Lori a bit to murder her own daughter.
Feels like they just didn't want kids to like hamper up her life or whatever. Obviously, it feels like the mother of her is a sociopath. Like, she just doesn't really have feelings. If anything, she's slightly amused by somebody else's weakness. It means nothing to her. And, it's not that it means anything to Alex either, the death, but he's grossed out. I don't know if she wants him to disembowel Tylee. Yeah, so like if you took out the organs, kind of, all you gotta do is jump in there and the animals would eat them right away. Get rid of the body quicker. Yeah.
Lori was laughing when they were making sandwiches after murdering Tylee. They were making sandwiches out of the meat that they barbecued from her thigh.
Go towards the center of that. It's like he went right in the middle there and buried the one leg and the... If you find one leg and two arms, I'm telling you right now that they did eat that other leg. I'm not kidding.
After you observed that, did you observe the autopsy of that child?
I did.
Okay.
I observed the same melted green bucket with the charred flesh and charred bone that was located on Mr. Daybell's property that was now sitting on the table in the medical examiner's office.
She was laughing. And they took those sandwiches out and ate them while they were standing around the fire, and she was in a great mood. She was laughing about it. So in the readings, we get into the psyche of Lori as she murders her children, because I'm feeling it. I'm in her energy. The energy there is all connected. So I'm feeling what Lori felt. I'm thinking what Lori thought. I'm hearing her thoughts. And I'm hearing Alex's thoughts and Alex's feelings. I'm feeling them. I'm feeling it from them, as well as feeling the trauma and the disbelief of Tylee as she is literally being murdered by her own mother. Okay, so I'll tell you what happened. So we have multiple issues, multiple motives, and they all combine. It's not one motive. The motive for the murder of Charles was money. The motive for the murder of Tylee was satanic human sacrifice of hopefully a virgin and the eating of the flesh. And then the murder of JJ was to get even, and plus she didn't even want JJ, and she sure wasn't going to let Kay have her after Kay won with the money. So there was this rivalry, this tension. She wasn't going to let Kay win. She wasn't going to let Kay have JJ. So she murdered JJ. I mean, this is a true sociopath, a true psychopath. She murders this little boy because she's mad because this woman who's harassing her is going to get the money and there's nothing she can do about it. So she murdered him. But she murdered him on a child sacrifice day or a human sacrifice day as well. So were they going to murder them, or did they need human sacrifices for the demons? Or did they murder them for money? And since they were going to murder them, why not make a human sacrifice to make them stronger bond with the demons, to please the demons, so the demons would do more evil things for them, so they would gain more power? Because that is actually how it works. And that is how the dark side takes power over your life or over the lives of others. Wherever they get instilled, the people who are doing this are gaining power with their evil. And one of the ways to do it is blood sacrifice. And it's a fact. It's true. It works. The proteins in the blood when they are first killed, when these children or adults are first killed, allows the spirit people can use that to come through stronger also. So if they were evoking the demons and they wanted to see them, these dark angels, and that blood spilling is really the way to go. And people who are into that dark stuff often do use like birds or goats or other animals, but that's why they're doing it. they pick their best one because they want the best blood quality for the demons that they're summoning. And that's what Chad and Lori did with JJ and Tylee. So months ago, I was meditating. I was not trying to get anything on this case. And all of a sudden, I was being shown the most graphic and the most horrible demonic activity related to Chad and Lori. I have not uploaded that reading because it scared me a little bit. But I was wondering, why are they showing me all this? Like, I didn't know for sure. Do they want me to tell the public about this? Am I supposed to upload this? You know, because when it started, I grabbed my audio recorder and there I'm recording. Well, I decided, you know what? After all they showed me about this being ritual murder, I looked up the dates, the human sacrifice dates. And the human sacrifice dates, oh, this is something important. Let me digress a minute. If you're going to do any ritual, whether it's light ritual, and by that I mean positive, love, you know, you do these rituals at the Catholic Church, you do them at the Mormon temple, you do them in Christian church. Rituals are things that are established that you do, you know, singing the songs to evoke the good angels and invoke God. Well, so when I talk about rituals, there's ways of going about rituals. The Catholic Church is really into rituals. The Mormon temple is really into rituals. There's nothing wrong with rituals. It's the intent behind them. So it really matters. Like, there's certain times of the year because they're all astrology-based religion. Christianity is an astrology-based religion. So there's certain times of the year where you want to do certain rituals. And Tylee and JJ were murdered during the time of the year where you sacrifice humans to the demons. And if you're going to do any ritual, you could do it, say there's like a window of opportunity 3 days before the actual goal date or 3 days after the actual goal date. You can do that murder or that other ritual, even good or bad ritual, right? So the date to murder the virgin, the date to murder the female is September 8th. So the date for human sacrifice of September 9th, you want a female and you must dismember her. So the calendar that the dark occultists use is the same calendar that the light occultists use. They don't celebrate the same things, but they acknowledge them. So in my many years of study of the occult, I've been aware that there's a calendar and that there's certain times when certain rituals are more effective. The time that you would murder and sacrifice on September 7th is the ritual date set aside. It's called marriage to the beast. And it's a sexual thing. It involves sacrifice and dismemberment. And it's supposed to be either an infant up to a female of age 21. So a young female is murdered on September 7th. Well, Tylee was murdered on September 8th and buried on September 9th. So that is all. Every part of that is within the 3-day range to September 7th to qualify for being a part of a ritual murder designed to bring on the demons and dark angels of the occult. The next ritual sacrifice days that we come to are September 21st and September 22nd. September 21st is called Midnight Host. The Midnight Host ritual on September 21st is about dismemberment and hands removed for hand of glory. And it's supposed to be a female, but if you don't have a female, a boy who has not gone through puberty will suffice for that ritual for sacrifice because he has not developed the male hormones yet. So September 21st is the ritual of the Midnight Host, and that is for dismemberment and also the hands removed for hands of glory. So that's a specific ritual. And so if you listened to one of the agents testify at Chad Daybell's preliminary hearing, he was talking about how JJ's hands were taped together. And that is because it's a removal of the hands, because they would have preferred to actually remove the hands, but Alex, who is the angel of darkness for Lori, would not take part in any more dismembering due to the fact that it made him nauseated. He didn't care at all about murdering these children. It did not bother him a bit. What he did care about was he didn't want to be grossed out by all the blood and guts. So they taped his hands. That's what happened. These dates on this calendar are, you can't argue against it. You can't say, oh, but prove that's what happened. It's right there when they murder the children. I did get during the reading that the original plan was to murder both children on September 8th when they murdered Tylee. But it took longer than they expected to do the murder and the dismemberment and all that. So they decided to wait for little JJ's murder, which would come on the next human sacrifice day.
Okay, so the boy shows me he's playing with something. The mom comes over to him. And then I'm feeling like the mom putting, going, it's okay, to the boy. It's okay, everything's alright, it's okay, everything's alright. And then just, she has some like giant plastic bag and she just puts it over his head really fast and starts wrapping something around. I don't know if it's tape or what. And then the father sees that she's going gung-ho on that, and so he runs over to help her. Like they pin him down, and the father's trying to, or the man's trying to pinch his nose so he can't breathe. And so that's at the doorway of where there's a bedroom, the boy's bedroom, where the bottom bed's a little whiter and the comforters are navy blue. So she's leading him back into the bedroom when she kind of does that from behind, and then the stepfather jumps in to help with that. And I think that's probably why they ended up with the black plastic all over the boy, because it kind of started out that way. Water.
And that day, right there on the calendar, is September 21st. Now, again, remember, there's a 3-day window on each side of the date you can do the sacrifice in order for it to still have the energies associated, and you're picking up on all the energy of all the previous people who did it on that day, and the demons. And it's like everyone unites to do this, and they call in the demons, and then they get more power for pleasing the demons and more, things in return. And so that's how it works. And it's very real. I can tell you that, it's very real. Now when you move on to Tammy's death, between October 13th and October 30th, it's called Preparation for All Hallows Eve, Samhain, which we call Halloween now. It's about what this is actually for. During this time between October 13th and October 30th is the abduction, holding, and ceremonial preparation of individual for human sacrifice. Let me tell you this again. Preparation for Halloween, All Hallows Eve, Samhain is the abduction, the holding, and the ceremonial preparation of individual for human sacrifice. That starts on the 13th and ends on the 31 when the numbers transpose. And it makes me wonder, because so Tammy was terrorized by this paintball gun in her driveway in September, but then she was murdered October 19th. So somehow they put her in there where really if you were kidnapping someone, you might want to hold them in a little cage underground to torture them so that they're fully traumatized, and that pleases the demons even more when you sacrifice them on Halloween night. But with Tammy, they went ahead and murdered her during the time that was meant for abducting and holding these people, probably because they wanted to get it out of the way. But they went ahead and did it during that time. But it is a time that's all about murdering people and making victims out of people and pleasing the demons.
I asked to speak with Tammy Daybell, and I did connect. She showed me in Chad Daybell's mind, he did her a favor because she would have been humiliated if he left her. So he is an out-and-out sociopath, and Lori is a psychopath, even more dangerous. So she was showing me how Charles's mind works. How how Chad's mind works. Not that she agreed with it or anything, but that's what she's showing me, what he's think. She does not want her children to feel guilty for not supporting Chad when he goes to prison, because he is guilty. And Tammy does not want this to be a defining moment for the lives. And that's exactly how she gave it to me. So what she was showing me too, Lori feels like the catalyst. The energy of them both. Chad is no pushover. He is callous and cold. And Alex, Lori's brother, knows how to kill people as well. This is before. Now this is really weird. Tammy showed me that the poison that killed her was related to octopus venom.
Now, this is the big one. This is what sealed the deal for me. This is the frosting on the cake as far as showing that this case is about satanic ritual abuse. And that is the fact of their marriage on November 4th. November 4th. November 4th is called Satanic Revels. That day is set aside to have sexual gratification for the celebration of the sacrifices you've made to the demons that season. November 4th. And when did they get married? I believe it was November 5th. And remember, you have 3-day window on either side. So I'm guessing that who they wanted to marry them on the beach that day either wasn't available, or the weather wasn't nice, or else they would have done it on the 4th, but the 5th will do. And there is no arguing against this. This is not random. This is satanic ritual abuse. There's no excuse for not having charges on the murder of these children by Chad Daybell and Lori Daybell, period. As a reverend, a spiritualist reverend, I have seen people come into my church over and over and over as victims of satanic ritual abuse. And this case with Tylee being murdered on September 8th, one day after the marriage to the beast, which is for sacrifice and dismemberment of an infant to age 21-year-old female. Tammy being murdered during the time where you're supposed to abduct and hold a ritual sacrifice victim in order to torment them, to sacrifice them on Halloween. They went ahead and murdered her, but they murdered her in that time period. And then on September 22nd, feast day. And that is supposed to be taken off the hands of your victim. They taped JJ's hands together. They took off his hands symbolically. They ritually sacrificed JJ. And I'm going to tell you guys something. I feel like there was other people in the room, and I always have. And I'm going to leave it at that. Because I don't want to accuse the wrong people, and they were somewhat blurry, but there was 3 men and 1 woman, at least, in that room when JJ was murdered, I believe. Oh, I'm sorry for getting mad. I'm just so sorry. I've just witnessed these horrific satanic ritual abuse murders how many times before the police dug up their bodies? And I'm now sitting there only charging Chad with having dead bodies in his yard? My God, the man is a high priestess of Satan, for God's sake. Okay, never mind. I'm getting a little too carried away. I'm so mad. Anyways, so after Chad and Lori murder Charles, and then they murder the 2 children on satanic ritual sacrifice days, they murder Tammy, where it's the time you're supposed to kidnap your ritual sacrifice victim, but they go ahead and murder her. They fly to Hawaii. Lori's choice of a wedding ring is a ring that you could literally take off and drop into someone's tea, and it should provide enough poison to make them sick, if not kill them. That was her choice of a ring. Okay, that's a ring known for emitting poison. And then on November 4th, they get married. That's the day. Look at what it says. Satanic Revels, that's the name of the, Satanic Revels is the name of the ritual. You orgy, you have sex, right? Well, Lori, when didn't want to have sex outside of marriage when she was younger. I think she gave that up. I think she was having sex with Chad way before. But anyways, so of course he was Moroni and she was whatever. So, you know, they were pretending to be like these leaders of the Mormon church and stuff. But so anyways, the fact that that little guy fell off the Mormon church tells me that the Mormon church needs to pay attention. Yep. On the satanic, the November 4th is when you celebrate. You celebrate your sacrifices. Okay. I have a reading that I did that is so horrific I have not uploaded it. And if you're like, what? She's saying she has something worse than what I already uploaded? And the answer is yes, I do. I have something even worse than that. And I haven't uploaded it because I have my doubts. I'm not sure if they showed all that to me because they want me to upload it or they just wanted me to understand. But they showed me the demonic possession of Lori, and that is what helped me know that they had been inviting these demons in them. First, they invited the demons to work with them. Then they get closer to the demons. Then they're friends. And then they're just kind of, you know, they hear the demons' words as their own thoughts. But they know the difference. They can choose still. And then at some point, there's full-on demonic possession. And a lot of times when you're doing the human sacrifice, there'll be people there, like the high priestess, that is inviting the demon to go inside them. So if you're inviting a spirit, whether an angel, God, Jesus, you know, or demon angel, whatever, you're inviting them in. That's called invocation. And if you're inviting them to appear and work with you, that's evocation. And so Lori and Chad were practicing. They were at the level. It all starts with the evocation, but they were at the level where they were communing to the point with the spirits, where the spirits were inside them. But Chad, he had been at this a lot longer. Chad was doing this before he ever met Lori. And Chad is a high dark priest. And so are some of his followers. So Chad, I got chills. Yeah, so are some of his followers, are priests of the darkness. They haven't been weeded out yet either. So think about that, if you will. But anyways, what was I going to say about Chad? Oh, what they showed me in that reading about Chad, it looked most similar. It wasn't exactly the same, but the most similar analogy in the physical world that I could explain to people is that Chad was fully connected or fully a part of the lake of evil. So angels and demons form out of like masses of consciousness, and whether they're good or bad, and I've seen them come out of the massive consciousness of the good. So Chad was to the point where 20% of him, I guess, you know, they didn't say 20%. It's like, I'm just telling you what I saw. The cover of him was what a lot of people knew. So most people who knew Chad did not know about this. Some do though, and some are even part of it. Okay, Chad and Lori aren't the only ones, but we'll just leave that alone for a minute and just look at Chad again. Chad was actually part of the lake of evil. So the lake of evil was like sideways, vertical, but it's not spilling out. And then it's like backed up with him, and he's like 80% of him is the lake of evil, and 20% of him is just the cover that other people saw as Chad, the, you know, potato head or whatever. Yeah, that's what they showed me. And it was after that reading that I got up and looked up the calendar for the human sacrifice days, and sure enough, Tylee and JJ were murdered on the human sacrifice days. Tammy, somewhat, yes, she was murdered in the time where you'd pick someone up for human sacrifice, and then they went and got married on the orgy day, the marriage to the beast, the Day of Revels, Day of Revelry. It's an orgy where you're supposed to like be having sexual gratification all day, but it's in honor of the demons and in celebration of the murders that you did for the demons. And that's when they went and got married. So there's no denying that this is a satanic ritual abuse. This needs to come out in the media. This needs to come out in every TV show related to this. They're not even telling you the whole story if they don't tell you about this part of it. Let's think about that for a little while. Okay, and why has nobody picked up the fact that the psychic down here in San Diego, California, accurately gave details with less than 1 in a trillion chance that solved this case 4 months before they dug up the bodies, and now I'm telling you even more, and I'm really being blunt. The Mormon Church is the elephant in the room. This is satanic ritual sacrifice. So if you're doing spirit work with good or bad entities, you'll usually be using the same entities over durations or periods of time. And you'll have new entities that come in, but you'll get to know them and you're not alone with them. And it's the same way if you're working with the dark side. Or if, like I have, let's take the example of Chad Daybell. So he's working with a demon. Let's just call the demon Roger. So he's working with Demon Roger. And Demon Roger helps him to do some bad things to people he doesn't like. And now Chad really likes Demon Roger because it gives him a leg up in the world. Right? So now Chad hangs around with Demon Roger, and Demon Roger's a lot. And when Chad meditates, he's calling on Demon Roger, and Demon Roger's helping him. Demon Roger, why would Demon Roger go away if Chad keeps calling him? And Demon Roger, his sustenance, his food is negative energy. So if it's fear or trauma, it's actual food. Okay, they're energy beings and they eat energy, and then the negative emotions emanate off people and they provide sustenance. That's how it works. And what happens is there's a ribbon formed, like an energy ribbon, and they hang around together, and then the Demon Roger can give Chad ideas, but they don't make Chad do anything. This is what you got to be really clear about. Chad chose to do everything he did, and everything he did, I guarantee you, he studied. Otherwise, he wouldn't have murdered those children or had those children murdered or been part of murdering those children on human sacrifice days, because that's what he did. That's what they did, okay? So then you get to a point where Chad's like, okay, I want to call on you, and you come in, and then they'll have all this power together, right? Now they're in each other, connected. You know, at some point it's obsession, and then it goes down a little bit, and it's possession. And where the level I was showing Chad was so advanced, he was pure on permanent connected part of the lake of evil. That's what I was shown about Chad before I got up and looked up the occult dates and discovered and put online these. And I'm surprised with all the people copying my work that nobody has picked up on the true reason why those children were murdered when they were murdered. So now we have to go back to look at the Mormon Church again and what's their part in this. We have this Church of the Firstborn. Does that condone human sacrifice? Or do they talk about human sacrifice just through like they do in the Christian Bible? Human sacrifice has occurred throughout the history of mankind. And it was part of all religions at some point. And different sacrifice, blood sacrifices were part of most of the major world religions at some point. With a colorful and controversial history, the Mormon Church is the height of secrecy. Some people think the Mormon Church is a cult. I have made quite a few Mormon friends during all this, and most of them have been super nice, really very helpful people, really, really nice people. I don't mean to be rude when I say this, but the Mormon Church is going to have to accept the fact that this happened and that these people twisted Mormon doctrine in order to justify these murders for money. And that they further twisted Mormon doctrine in order to murder the children on human sacrifice days. And that's a really sad thing for the Mormon Church. But the Mormon Church is actually not helping things, and they're not helping God. They're actually helping the dark side by keeping all this a secret, by ordering their members to stand down when their members are the media of Idaho, their members are the law enforcement of Idaho, their members are the coroners of Idaho. And yet the Mormon Church is sending out letters telling everybody they don't want the Mormon Church involved, but this is all about the Mormon Church in this case. I mean, if a Catholic priest murdered a little boy, you'd look at all his relations to the Catholic Church. Well, this is a Mormon priest for all intents and purposes, Chad was in the priesthood. He was a dark priest. He was practicing the dark arts. And as another occultist, I am an occultist. I don't practice the dark arts, but I am an expert in both the light and dark arts, because as a reverend of a church, I want to know who's coming through those doors to be able to understand what they're about instantly. I'm not going to be sitting there in the dark when I'm dealing with other people who use spirits and work with spirits, evoking spirits, and that's what Chad was doing. So these murders are not the fault of the Mormon church, and once people really grasp that, maybe the Mormon church will loosen up. They have to. This cannot stand, that the Mormon church orders silence when people have been murdered using the name of God. And that's why these entities, which I call the Resolutes, came to me with this case, and they appeared in multiple readings, and they were there to make sure. They were there to make sure there was resolution in this case. They were not going to let it stand. And I'm getting chills right now as I say this. They were not going to let somebody murdering children in God's name stand. They were going to make sure that justice was done in this case. They were going to make sure those bodies were found, and they used me to do that. So Lori and Chad did these murders for money, but they twisted the doctrine of the Mormon church in order to justify what happened to themselves and their friends. Some doctrines that were twisted were, if you want to learn more, you can look up blood atonement and the Mormon church. It seems that Lori justified part of what she was doing by saying that if she spilled the blood of these children, any sins that they had done would be forgiven, and they would be immediately allowed into heaven. And as Lori felt that it was soon the end of the world, that her and Chad had a mission to do, she got the children out of the way. And that is actually part of her motivation. It is literally a part of her thought process. She was so into what Chad said and everything he did. So if these people were really into the dark side, they're really into demons, why do they stay in the Mormon church if the Mormon church is good? And again, as a reverend at a spiritualist church, I've seen people come in from Catholic, from Christian, and now from Mormon that are victims of satanic ritual abuse. That happens everywhere. So why does that happen? Because if somebody grows up in one of those churches and they've memorized all the verses, they know all the techniques, they know people, and if they can get in a position of power, they have access to victims everywhere. And so maybe the Mormons really need to look at how much power people have over others, to silence, to ostracize, to molest. You know, there's a shakeup that needs to happen in the Mormon church, but pushing the issue to the side is not going to solve this problem, and it's not going to solve the problems within the Mormon church. We have to acknowledge that Chad was part of the dark priesthood. Chad and Lori cut up Tylee, cooked her flesh, and ate it as part of their sacrifice ritual. They became one with the demons that they evoked and invoked. Right? Evoked is when you call them to be outside of you. Invoke is when you call them to be inside of you. So Chad Daybell is a practitioner of the occult. Clearly, the days of the sacrifices and the marriage proves it. I saw what happened. And when they did, 4 months later, after that, dig up the remains of these children, everything that I had said was confirmed in the affidavit for Chad Daybell's property, and the charging papers that came a week later, and in the
bag over the head. And I'm seeing something I did not see the other time is duct tape around that bag, around the head. Okay, so I'm seeing Lori is the person who did it. She put the bag over the head. She also feels like she did the duct tape. Like she's just not, she just goes like full bore steam ahead. She's got, you would think she would have done the duct tape first, but I'm seeing her cases like she puts the duct tape, she puts that bag over his head, and she's like twisting it around, trying to like make sure he can't get air. And then I know some man is there. She was struggling because she was like holding this on his head, and he's trying to push her hands away. So he's trying to push her arm, he's trying to push her chest, but he's not strong enough. And she's holding it down, and she's trying to get this duct tape. She's trying to use her teeth to get duct tape with one hand while she's trying to hold his neck. She's trying to squish his neck, hold the bag on his neck, but he's trying to fight her.
What did you do after that?
And then after that, the rest of the team continued the excavation of the grave. And then eventually we uncovered the entire body that was wrapped in this black plastic bag with a lot of duct tape, intermingled.
Black plastic bag and its contents from the ground.
Yeah, once the complete excavation was done, where you could see the human remains wrapped in the black plastic, and we can take photographs and scans, the coroner was called in, and a body bag was placed, and then the team removed the body, which was given to the coroner.
Okay. Once you arrived in the autopsy room, what was the first thing you observed?
The first thing I observed was the black bag that was covered in duct tape that had been removed from the area underneath the tree by the pond, was placed on the table.
Okay, and you recognize that as the same black bag?
Yes.
How did you recognize that?
The duct tape and the black plastic that still had dirt all over it. I observed a small child in red pajamas, red pajama shirt, red pajama pants. I also observed a light and blue blanket that had been placed on top of him.
Okay.
The amount of duct tape that was covering the body.
Okay. Where was that duct tape located?
On the head, arms, and feet.
Okay. Let's talk about the head area. When you looked at the head, what did you observe there?
The head had a white plastic bag over the top of it. It appeared to be a normal trash bag, had a red drawstring. It appeared to be the expandable type of trash bag with the waffle style pattern on top of the head.
Okay. And you had mentioned duct tape there. Where did you observe the duct tape?
There was duct tape that was tightly wrapped around this way, tightly from his chin to his forehead area. Several layers of duct tape tightly wrapped.
Okay. What did you observe the medical examiner and his team do with that material?
They ended up using a small sharp instrument and cut down the middle of it to expose what was underneath.
Okay, and when they exposed underneath, what did you observe?
An additional piece of duct tape that was stretched from jawline to jawline across the mouth.
Okay, and when you say across the mouth, at this point, were you looking at this child's face?
I was.
Okay.
You can help me the most by sharing my videos. Share them across social media, send them by email to people. If you know of people who are interested in readings, please share my channel with them. And then we can get back to business of proving the afterlife. And with that, I just want to thank you for subscribing to my channel. If you like my work and you feel it's valuable and you want to make a contribution, you can become a Patreon, where then it takes a little monthly amount out, or you can make a one-time donation on the GoFundMe or PayPal. So there's a lot of ways you can purchase my book. I wrote a book, Motherhood to Mediumship. It's a bunch of little stories about the pathway, a different pathway than just crying and grieving, but of actually exploring the afterlife, which is what I did. So I have all these things going on. Like I said, I do readings all the time. And again, I solved the case of the missing Idaho children. on January 31st, 2020. I did approximately 10 readings. I did several of them with Kresha K. Easton. She is the niece of Charles Vallow. She's the biological aunt of the children, JJ. She's the biological aunt of JJ. And we did several readings. And then I did one of the readings with a relative of Joe Ryan. It's not the relative who's commonly in the media, but it's a relative that did actually have a closer relationship with Joe, but who doesn't choose to be public. So I'm not going to mention her name. And with that, I'm just so glad you joined us. And please keep checking back, because we're going to go through and talk about what really happened during those murders. We're going to talk about the things that nobody else is talking about, which is the truth. And so thank you. I just want to thank you for joining me today. All right, my name's Donna, Reverend Donna Seraphina. If you could help get the word out by sharing my videos, that would be fantastic. Even if you don't have money to donate, that's something you can do for free. So with that, we'll get started. Thank you.